Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of 86. This is Clockwork Noodles breaking down the second season. We are back with episode number 8. Of course, I need to do my PSAs. There is going to be another 2-week gap after this episode. So it will take us to the 18th. I will give you a good old happy Christmas wishing around that period of time. I think there's no actual scheduled videos to go out around Christmas itself. Make sure you guys are subscribed. I am going to start slowly working on my final season wrap-up, the full 2021 wrap-up. What are my top 3 anime of the season? How am I going to crown it? What's the hidden gem? And what am I watching next season? What is coming your way? It is a season of 2 halves. We've got a season of returns, very big returns coming our way. And we've also got a season of small original titles that may or may not be hidden gems. There's a few I really want to bring to your attention. I will be going through everything so you can see what things you may be interested in as well. There is a Discord channel too for you guys to get notified whenever videos go up. That may also help you keep track of the big gaps when it comes to 86. Production issues, I think a lot of it comes down to certain frames aren't really being ready on time. To be fair, with 86, it generally always looks really involved. It's one of those animes where every episode, especially this season with the amount of fighting that's going on, every episode, every frame looks really involved. So I can thoroughly believe that they hit production issues. I think they should have perhaps pushed it back, but I do understand why you wouldn't want to be pushed back with the anime lineup coming out next season. We will keep with it. I think 86 will now cross over. So in anime, I cross over into the next season. I have to take it with me. I think I've got enough allowance with what I've picked to continue having 86 in the ranks anyway. Let's just get back to it. We're going to crash land straight back into the fight, back into the fray. We end up losing the signal of our landhopper and our major for a little bit, but I wasn't really panicking. I didn't really think they had died or anything. I wasn't too concerned about those guys. We end up initially spotting what seems to be the Morpho, and the Morpho, it does look like a giant centipede. I am totally with them. It definitely looks like a house centipede with the big mandibles right at the front. It's massive. This thing is absolutely massive, and I like the way that they slowly tease the full scale. First see the head, and it's like, okay, it's just a head, and then it gets bigger and bigger, and then I like the way that the impact builds, and it ends up being creepy when it suddenly turns on and it starts moving and it starts to talk. Obviously, we did discuss that this is a railgun, and railguns, to my surprise, they're real, but they're also not. I did a little bit of a crash course on learning about methodology behind railguns. To my knowledge, there's been a few successful railgun attempts, but there's no fully working models out there because nobody can overcome the power usage, and it's power that is the big drawback when it comes to railguns. I found it fascinating, guys. I'm probably mashing the actual science behind railguns, but found it absolutely fascinating to learn about them, and also interesting to know that they are real and it's not just something I'm hearing about when it comes to Japanese manga and anime. It's a real concept, but we're not seeing any real life versions out there because there's so much heavy power constraints that go with them. I also think the design for the Morpho and the gun, it reminded me of the Halo energy sword. I couldn't unsee it. One side of the panel has a different charge to the other. I think both rails, so one's a positive, one's a negative, and it's different currents of electricity that run through it. You see the sparking that goes on. It's really cool. I really like the animation on it. I can see why something like this might have tripped them up on their actual deadlines. And the way it just starts to charge up, oh, I like it. It is crackling with life. And the fact that it's blue, I have a thing for blue as well. But as predicted, a lot of us were like, oh, Frederica is totally a stowaway. We were correct, but she's not stowed away in the place that we were initially thinking she was stowed away, because she ends up trying to tell Shin, you got to get away from that thing. That isn't Kiri. That's not him. And that is when we see the second Morphos. I was a bit confused at first when we saw the second thing with the wings. I was like, that's really, really weird. But it's definitely a second Morpho, and that looks really cool as well. It's got a really odd animation because it has wings. It looks like it's got proper wings. The bit I also really like, it's just a tiny weeny detail where the railgun starts to charge up. The electricity in the entire town suddenly turns on, and then it goes out again, and then it ripples as it prepares to fire. As I initially briefly, very poorly explained, the power requirements to fire a railgun are insane. They're insane. That's why we haven't got any working prototypes, because people are trying to make it so it doesn't rely off the grid, and you can actually take it to a battlefield and you don't actually have to wait for that thing to charge up. I love the fact that they've actually taken a nod at this by making all the lights turn on and then they turn off again, showing us that this thing is eating power from the grid to fire one of these deadly shots. Try and build a bit of tension this time where the team is very, very close in firing range into the blast range. Wasn't too fussed because it happened halfway through the episode and you're not doing your typical, we're going to leave it on a cliffhanger. They could have theoretically left this bit on a cliffhanger. Let's go back to have some mirroring with Ernst this time. Ernst mirroring Vladilina's uncle with his "we should all die" talk. If we toss innocent lives and keep throwing people into a war that we cannot win, we may as well go and die because those are not the Republic ideals. That's my takeaway from what he initially was saying. It's very similar to what Vladilina's uncle believed, that they deserved to die because the country was built on blood and they were going to die either or. So he essentially gave up in the end. It's very similar. Ernst is a great character. I actually have to say he's really grown on me. I love Ernst. I think his character is fantastic. He's very strong. His voice acting is amazing. And I really hope he doesn't die. The damage after the railgun is fired is absolutely insane. Literally half of the district was wiped out in just one blow. The actual power behind these things is terrifying. The Morpho, of course, is probably an exaggerated size. He's huge. That's insane. There were two Morphos. We had a decoy and a real one. That was a nice little plot twist as well that I didn't quite see coming. But let's go for the even bigger plot twist when we actually get a point of view from the Legion and the Morpho himself. We get to hear a dismembered voice, a voice of perhaps the Legion. I thought the Legion were mechanized. This confuses me a little bit. The Morpho was definitely talking to somebody who might be in charge. If they are Legion, I initially thought they were a hive mind kind of thing. Does deepen the questions I've got for the Legion. I don't quite understand the Legion as a whole. I have to say that the Morpho, whether this is a coincidence or not, looks very similar to Shin. And I know they're supposed to be indirectly related, or was it given that the Nozen clan is big or something? I can't quite remember the fair details. It's the way they also speak, that Shin and the Morpho, or Kiri, they speak in a very similar manner, the whole Roger, yokai in Japanese. The way they just speak and the way they pace it and the way they're quite calm, they are very similar with one another, and I think that's done on purpose because Shinden zones out and he can't even hear his teammate's voice anymore as he starts to just focus in on going into that almost killer rage moment when he's just got the Morpho in his sights. The Morpho does the same thing. He ignores his orders and starts to square up Shin. A nice bit of mirroring, but I think it's done on purpose. I think there's a lot more going on here. I like Shin baiting the Morpho, but it does show the state that he really has got to. He can't even hear his own team calling for him over the voices. I think it really is just showing that Shin is spiraling, and I've mentioned it a few times. The anime is hinting that his state of mind is definitely falling apart, especially when he's more in that kill zone. It's worrying. I love the way that he glitches. I've mentioned it before. I like the glitching. The glitching is fantastic. It's so robotic. I like the fact that it looks like it's out of control as well. The bodiless voice of, theoretically, the Legion. You need to return. You have to go back. And he ends up powering him out. He prevents him from attacking Shin, which is quite terrifying. But I guess it makes sense that if it's a robotic overlord neck type thing and they're all on the same network, he has the ability to just stop, or he can control, or he can see what the Morpho is saying. It's the reluctant yokai at the end when he withdraws. I like that. That is very Shin-like as well. We go into a bit of a flashback with our Morpho Kiri. I don't know whether to call him Kiri or the Morpho because he's technically a Morpho right now, but that's what the 86 are calling him. Kiri knows of Shin's insignia, and he starts to lament how him and Shin are very much the same. This is something we've already picked up. The anime is really hinting that the characters are very similar. And that's when we get our flashback. And this flashback confirms that he remembers. It definitely confirms that he's still got those memories. We see Princess Frederica now looking a lot more regal. So if you wanted to see her looking like a proper princess, you get your wish. When we can actually see Kiri as a knight, as a human, not just a mech. Then go, oh, how did he end up as a mech? But I think he ends up thinking that Frederica has died. He goes out on a bit of a rampage to attack the Republic, and then he must die in battle, and then his head's removed by the Legion. Because Frederica's family line were producing the Legion. The Legion go rampant? Something like that. Slowly piecing together the plot here. He definitely remembers Frederica. And there's a section when we see her covered in a blue feather. Feathers are meant to represent freedom, generally wings of freedom on the birds. Birds fly high. It's the freedom to go anywhere. However, it's a fallen feather. It's stuck in her hair. Blue is actually quite a sorrowful colour. Yeah, it's innocent. Yes, it's innocent. She's very young, but it's a very lonely colour. Frederica was lonely, detached from the world as well, and Kiri was the only thing that was keeping her grounded, someone to play with, and we see how happy she is that he's around, and you can easily see why he goes into a rage, an absolute rage, when he believes that Frederica has been killed. I think it's a nice bit of foreboding about what happens next. Slowly piecing together my timeline. So Kiri was the knight, he was a human at one point. Then we had the uprising because they were producing lots of these mechs, and the Republic wanted the royalty out. Ernst pretending that Frederica has died for the Battle of the Republic. Kiri isn't given that message, he doesn't catch on with the message, and he believes that Frederica was murdered by the Republic. And then he goes on his rampage and he gets killed in battle, and then he's turned into a legion. That's me trying to figure out some of the backstories, putting the pieces together. I'm very curious to see if he would react to seeing Frederica. Shocked that he didn't actually hear her voice when she calls out to Shin, because he does seem to remember her. He definitely seems to hold an anger towards those who took her from him. So maybe she was actually onto something, because she initially said she wanted to confront him, and the others said, no, there's no point, he won't remember you. I think she might have been onto something. We also get confirmation that she's inside Fido whilst Shin is talking to the Killer Mantis. I think that's his nickname. The Killer Mantis offers to actually change crews. He does state, we will change crews, you don't have to stay there. But despite this, Shin obviously says no, he's going to continue, because he also must realise the importance of trying to take this guy down. If they can't defeat the Morpho, everybody's going to die. It's nice to see that the Major actually survived the crash landing, and we get a very interesting conversation now with Killer Mantis. I like the fact that he's also continues to talk to her via the headset, even though he's right behind her. It's actually quite a nice little effect going on. I like it. It does get very interesting. These two have a interconnected story. I don't know if I'm picking up some very odd vibes between the two, but I'm curious about the connection and the chemistry between the two. Fido is hiding the stowaway Frederica, and now I think about it, that actually makes sense, because she is the one who pieced it back together and gave it to them. That actually made sense. I feel bad for not picking that up. A lot of us definitely got that nail on the head. She was definitely stowed away. Continues to spiel about going back. However, she does swap halfway through, mentioning that she's a hostage. Her job is actually to make them fight harder and prevent them from running away. She seems to be quite clever with this. She's pretty clever, because she believes that with her being there, they won't be so hesitant to throw away their lives. They would actually fight harder and definitely try and come back and ensure that they actually come back alive, because they're going to try and protect her. They won't let any harm come to her. It's very clever logic. However, you can see with her face, even she's quite nervous and not very confident about the outcome, that this may or may not work, or she might be even be terrified herself that she realizes the situation that she's in. However, it doesn't really go to plan, because Raiden is instructed to take her back. I like Raiden. I hope this means he's going to survive, because I got very upset when Dyer died, and I'm still not over that. I love Dyer's design. I thought he was awesome. I'm not over that. We end on quite the heavy scene of Shin gifting a gun, if we get to the worst case scenario, because he's obviously predicting things are going to go horrific. Things don't look very good. I can see why he might be thinking in this way. However, as she says, it's too heavy. I can't do it. We will all return. It's an interesting way to leave it. We now have 2 weeks to wonder what's going on. Still no sign of Vladilena or what happened. I know you're doing this on purpose, 86. I know you're trying to build. I want to know what happened to Vladilena. I want to see Vladilena. I miss Vladilena. The story is starting to piece together, but we definitely seem to be building up for a big fight that may or may not go very well. All the way through the anime as well, they kept saying the United Kingdom, and I legit thought they were talking about the UK. I theorised that 86 was trying to be World War II, perhaps? San Magnolia, and they had the backs of the 86 that were killing them. That could be Germany. I feel like the Republic we're in now, the Federal Republic, is very Russian. Maybe the United Kingdom is out there? I don't know what that makes the actual enemy themselves, but it was a fun thing where I thought there was a lot of similarities. Obviously, it's a war anime. It's going to have similarities to big wars that plagued Europe anyway. Little interesting things like that I was picking up on, and hearing them go United Kingdom, I was like, oh, that's weird. Can't get used to that one. I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves. I will definitely see you in 2 weeks. And I hope that you guys will tune into some more videos and catch my overall review. I think my review is probably going to be in about a week's time. 86 is definitely going to overhang into the next season. So you guys can chill out and relax and know that that's definitely one of the animes I am continuing. I hope you guys are having a good day and I will see you guys again soon. Take care of yourselves, guys. Bye-bye.